A $100 XRP Flight to Safety is underway, and I'm going to explain it right from the get-go before folks get too riled up. I think I did slip and mess up, though. I think I meant to add one extra zero and say $1,000 XRP Flight to Safety, but maybe not. That might have offended a few people in the audience tonight, so we better not talk about a $1,000 XRP. But I'm going to explain the title here, and we're going to break it down for you guys here in tonight's live show. If you appreciate what we're doing here on a daily basis, covering current events, financial markets, and the greatest transfer of wealth in world history, then please make sure that you are liking these videos, sharing them out far and wide, and that you are subscribed to the channel. All of our community resources are available at zachrector.com, and we greatly appreciate your support. So straight on into it. We're about to break down, and we've been decoding this economic data, and it's a shame that you have to be a full-time decoder to really understand what's taking place in this economy. As it was shown today, it was an absolutely fabricated lie, this economy that we've had leading up till now, especially over the past few years in this prior administration, which was telling us it was just a vibe session, don't have anything to worry about, get your vibe up, it's okay. Now we find out that 911,000 jobs were a lie in the 12 months prior to March 2025. And so what we've seen here is almost 2 million jobs total vanish from the data as we circle back. That was one of their favorite terms. We're going to circle back to you on that one. Well, now we're circling back on the data, and it's absolutely terrible, the situation on the ground. We've been breaking it down. What does this cause people to do? Well, we see gold's at a new all-time high, pushing up towards $3,700 per ounce. We see that silver broke above $42 per ounce briefly, back above 40 per ounce for silver. We see XRP pumped 580, actually over 600%, full swing before the election at 49 cents, all the way up to $3.66. We see that our favorite utility coins that ride with XRP, XLM, 600% swing, HBAR, 800% swing. These utility assets and cryptos that we've been stacking have been some of the best performers when folks want to make a flight to safety. For the defensive measures, they're going to precious metals. Some folks do real estate as well too, and real estate's in the middle of a reset as well, so you better have a good strategy there. But if you know what you're doing, you definitely can be winning and hedging with real estate, building wealth with real estate, which is what I'm going to be doing as I take profits from over-investing in crypto. We skim off, get rid of some crap coins, and we're going to roll that into some hard assets in the form of real estate. Those are the defensive measures in the flight to safety that many folks have been making into precious metals. Now, to really get ahead, though, you have to knock it out of the park. We have created an environment, and when I say we, the Federal Reserve, the powers that be, this is who has created this environment where even making 4% on your T-bill, you're basically breaking even with the real rate of inflation. You might even be suggesting that you're actually losing money, even if you're earning 4% yield. But inflation, the real inflation, is much more than the CPI lie that they're delivering to us, which we will get the PPI tomorrow, Producer Price Index, and we will get the CPI lie on Thursday. So this was a big week for economic data, and it confirms what we've been saying, how bad it is on the ground, Main Street economy. The divide between the haves and the have-nots, the disconnect between Main Street and Wall Street continues to widen. There's a record amount of liquidity on the sidelines, and the market does not give a F about this economic data, about war, about countries being overthrown, about, Macron being, called in. All of this turmoil, even the terrible jobs numbers, we have a little hiccup, the market pulls back. But it basically just wiped out the pump that we had this morning, first thing, when XRP went back above $3 briefly. So we come back down to 292, 293, I think, on levels on the exchanges might vary. But basically, we are right back to where we were yesterday. That momentum continues to build up, and the market really took this in stride, and the market doesn't care. And the reason why is because the situation calls for people to make more riskier allocations and bets with their portfolio, because 4%, you're still not beating inflation. 10%, are you beating inflation? Well, if it's anything that matters, inflation compounded over the past 4 or 5 years could be 20, 40, 50%, 100% on certain goods and services. We are in a completely new reality. So I've been saying, thank you very much. I don't care to do a deal with the devil in regards to, treasury bills with the United States government, even though that's been a safe haven, and that has been one asset class that has been a flight to safety for many. Warren Buffett, the most famous one and prominent one, with tens of what is he at, over hundreds of billions now in short-term T-bills. So the flight to safety has been precious metals. It's T-bills for some, because even if they're not getting ahead, at least they know that they're keeping up with inflation. But for those who are willing to take risk, some of us a little bit more risk than others. I might be guilty of that, in the form of over 90% of my portfolio being XRP. For those willing to take that risk, the flight to safety has been basically our best flight to safety, and our best store of value has been in these assets, which have appreciated anywhere from 5, 6, even 800% swing on H-bar. Thank you for the gifts on TikTok. Thank you for the super chats there on YouTube. I will be circling back for Q&A, super chats, and I do appreciate all the support. Thank you so much. Why did I put $100 though? Well, I'll be honest with you guys. When you include an XRP price in the title, you always get about double as many viewers as you normally would. But the reason why we want to draw folks into this video is not to just bait them with a title and a thumbnail, but to show folks and continue to spread this message about there are options out there for surviving and thriving during this transfer of wealth, getting on the right side of this transfer of wealth. And I preface this economic data that I'm about to deliver to you guys, which is absolutely terrible. But we don't want to make anybody too, depressed here. And so what we do is we cover the data, but then we say, what can we do about it? Because I could, be a CNN, we could be a CNBC that just reads off the data and tells you, hey, don't worry about it. Yes, this is terrible, but keep it in the 60-40 portfolio. Keep on letting your fund manager do their deal. Yes, they're easing you into crypto with 1 to 5% allocation. That's fine, right? And that's what the mainstream media does. What we do over here is we seek real alpha, and we are delivering the XRP alpha right now. This platform that we have created with your support is the best XRP alpha content in the space. And what we have shown here with this multiplier is just how easy it's going to be for XRP to go to $10, $50, and $100, and even $1,000. And the reason why I put that in the title is to show folks, when you consider XRP and the XRP community's perception of reality, despite how suppressed it's been, despite how frustrated some might be, despite some of the vocal negative Nancys in the crowd, the overwhelming majority of people in XRP believe it's going to $100 or even $1,000. The reason why this is important, included in today's title, is because it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when nobody's really willing to sell at these lower levels. Of course, I'm generally speaking, there are going to be people taking profits along the way. But when you speak to the overwhelming majority of this community, we understand how undervalued XRP is with the utility that it's going to go solve. That drives the price of XRP higher. But then the devaluation of the dollar also is going to mean it's going to take more dollars to get us XRP at the end of the day. So the currency being inflated and devalued, that's going to drive XRP higher. And then the utility of XRP drives the price higher. The utility alone is enough to drive XRP to $100, in my opinion, by 2030. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. But I think the overwhelming majority of folks in the XRP community believe that it's prophecy, that we're going to $100 or even $1,000. I'm being conservative, and I want to make sure that we don't offend anybody tonight by mentioning $1,000 XRP. And the reason why this is so important for folks to understand is that when you compare it to Bitcoin, nobody really thought that Bitcoin was going to go to $100 or $1,000 when it was back at $3. Compared to the XRP community, the overwhelming majority is convinced 100% that XRP is going to go to $100 or $1,000 per XRP. It's quite a different dynamic, and it is going to show us why, right? Why so many people are going to choose XRP in this flight to safety. Yes, they're going to stack precious metals. Yes, they're going to try to grow their business every single day. As we've been talking about since 2022, recession to-do list. Item number one is income. Stack more money so you can survive inflation and stack more of the suppressed assets. And the reason why folks are going to be choosing XRP is because utility takes us a lot higher, and it's going to perform better as a store of value from this point going forward than Bitcoin. And that's the big dirty little secret, and why the Bitcoin community has been attacking XRP for so long. We are the true threat to that store of value narrative, and we have the additional utility, which sets us up for the chosen asset when it comes to a flight to safety. I'm about to show you the jobs numbers are terrible. Inflation's not going away. So what can me and you do? We make defensive measures, precious metals, and you have to go on offense, and you can't just be making 4, 6, 8%. The traditional guys on Wall Street, leading up till now, were happy slappy to make 8% on your money. We're not here to make 8%. We're actually not even looking at 80% returns. We've been hitting it out of the park with 500 to 800% returns on these investments from the election to where we've gotten to now. And what we have coming down the pipeline here is incredible, especially for XRP being able to check off the boxes when it comes to ETFs, digital asset treasury companies, and institutional adoption. And the tokenomics is not working against XRP like many other projects it is. So without further ado, let's get right on into it. I want to explain just how bad it is, and then we're going to get into the opportunity. I already pulled the inflows. The inflows that popped us up by 6 billion in market cap this morning, it was only 26 million of inflows, a 226x multiplier. And I'm going to show you the inflows that we've already seen in the Canadian spot ETF, 150 million Canadian. I did make sure I converted from Canadian to US dollars so that we could speculate and say, hey, if these XRP spot ETFs are going live and they see similar inflows to what these Canadian ETFs are already doing, where does that take XRP? And I think you guys are going to want to stick around for that. Straight to the data. Remember, no clickbait. We always deliver the facts. We always back it up with data. It's up to you to make your own investment decisions. Let's rock and roll. Please make sure that you like the stream, share it out far and wide. And let's start it off with Nate Garossi putting it in perspective. If you can't see the connection between what's happening in the world right now and the rise of crypto, not sure what to tell you. Trust is eroding everywhere. People, especially younger generations, don't trust anything. Not mainstream media, not social media, not Wall Street. Trust equals king. The saying goes, trust but verify here in crypto. And we can verify that the ROI on these assets has been tremendous. To reiterate the point, the Federal Reserve Financial Services, well, they're moving slowly, but surely moving along here. We are modernizing the payment ecosystem. The FedNow Service Network transaction limit will rise to 10 million in November 2025 to support an even wider range of use cases. Please compare the traditional FedNow system, and that's their new, cutting edge technology, is finally, we're going to up the limit, guys, to 10 million. Yay! Making progress. Meanwhile, we're seeing billions of liquidity flow across the XRP ledger on a daily basis with ease. No problem. No errors. Not like the 6% run rate on errors on Swift and some of these other incumbent networks. Now we marked on the calendar September 7th. We knew that it was going to be big energy, not just for the markets, but also for global shifts. Sure enough, Nepal is failing. They've overthrown the government there. France is collapsing. Macron, he's out. Vote of incompetence? Is that what they call it? It's always interesting to see how the government operates over there in Europe. France collapsing, and apparently Berlin is without power. I didn't even know that. And it's only Tuesday. Are you prepared? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, we are. Defensive measures, precious metals. Threw some seeds in the ground. I got a fresh fall crop of lettuce and broccoli coming in. It's all part of the program. We're harvesting yield every single day on XRP meme coins. on AMM liquidity yield, making a trade, right? Planting a seed. All of it is part of our strategy. And boy, is it paying off. And I'll tell you what, I just got some cucumbers that were coming in. Got some nice cucumbers coming in. And the wife did approve, which that's what counts, right? If the wife approves, I'll leave it at that. Powell footnote in the Jackson Hole speech, quote, "The data available to date suggests that the level of non-farm payrolls will be revised down materially." This was the Jackson Hole speech. Okay. He already had seen the data. He already knew it was a lie. They've known the whole time. And this is why in the Jackson Hole speech, you heard him basically give up, wave the white flag on inflation. And their way of waving the white flag is to claim that they had victory bringing down inflation and now blame it on the big bad orange guy, President Trump, for the tariffs. That's why inflation's out of control. Okay. So inflation is no longer, it's still part of their purview, but now they're saying we've done what we could on inflation. Now Trump is messing that up. But when it comes to this labor market, it was an absolute facade, and the data now backs it up. It wasn't just us making this up. And by the way, please, because in today's earlier update, we talked about this in today's update, and people want to make it political. It's data, and it's flawed data. It's flawed data no matter who's in charge. And please understand and respect the fact that we've been calling it out under Biden, before him under Trump, before him under Obama, and then currently under President Trump once again. Despite, we're rooting for this country. We're rooting for President Trump. I pray for our success. But the data was a lie. It still is a lie. And we've been shooting it straight to you guys, left, right, up, down, no matter who's in that Oval Office. We've been calling out this data. So I just want to check everybody on that immediately wants to turn around and say, well, Trump is using this same data. Well, Trump is lying. Yes, we have acknowledged that the data is flawed. This is why he had to remove the head of the BLS, which was not a political move. It was the right move to make. We have to demand answers. Left, right, up, down, doesn't matter who you believe in, what you love. The data is flawed. We have to fix it. And it's to the tune of 2 million jobs. Now, if you do want to say, hey, this was political, I think that we know which way this went as far as trying to do a little dance, make a little love, and fabricate a lie, which was our economy. 2023, negative 306,000 jobs. 2024, you had negative 818,000 jobs. And the 12 months ending March 2025, negative 1,100,000 jobs. Over 2 million jobs that were never there. Can we just get a little bit of clarity on that data, please? I like this meme right here. This is President Trump and Jerome Powell at the construction site. Trump's pointing to him. It says negative 911,000. Love to see it. It's terrible out there, folks. We've been calling it out. Americans' perceived probability of finding a job within 3 months after losing one fell by 6 percentage points in August to 45%, the lowest on record since data began in 2013. This also marks the biggest monthly decline since the 2020 pandemic. Pessimistic outlook for job seekers was broad-based across age, education, and income groups, according to the New York Fed. By comparison, in the years before 2020, this probability hovered around 58%. As a result, consumer job expectations now even worse than during the 2020 situation. U.S. labor market outlook is deteriorating. For the first time since the 2020 situation, there are now more unemployed people than job openings in the United States of America. In July, the U.S. had 7.18 million job openings for 7.24 million unemployed workers. The labor market needs rate cuts, and the Fed is going to sacrifice inflation. They get to blame Trump. They get to blame tariffs. That's why inflation's going back up. It's that guy over there in the White House. In regards to the labor market, they know they've broke the back of our economy. They know Main Street's bleeding out, and the crime was raising rates at the fastest pace in history and then holding rates at that level for longer than they needed to. That was the crime. That was Main Street bleeding out, and instead of bringing in the paramedics, they kicked us while we were down. Maybe did a little bit worse, but I don't want to get too vulgar with it. Here's the situation, though. Nearly 70% of FHA borrowers now carry debt-to-income ratios that a decade ago would have been considered flat-out toxic. That means that most are devoting so much of their paycheck to debt that even a small hit like a job lost, reduced hours, or an unexpected bill could push them over the edge. The reason it isn't showing up in official delinquency rates is because the government, FHA, and the GSEs are masking it. Roughly 1.2 million FHA mortgages, about 15% of the entire book, are on reduced or waived payments. Fannie and Freddie are also deferring and restructuring loans. Without those props, delinquency rates would already be approaching 2008 to 2009 levels. In other words, we're already in a crisis. Policy just hasn't let it surface yet. Jobs numbers, terrible. When it comes to delinquencies, the highest levels that we've seen since the great financial crisis. For some data points, it's even worse. Auto delinquencies is one of those. Student debt now due, even though the Biden administration tried to put it off and forgive it. The Biden administration was doing this with the FHA, where they were telling folks you don't have to pay. FHA borrowers, 15% of the book on reduced or waived payments. They were fabricating this entire economy. It was a complete lie. The only good thing that happened was for those that owned assets, the price of these assets just continued to appreciate. Scott Bessent. The Federal Reserve is among the foremost drivers of inequality in America. By failing to deliver on its inflation mandate, the Fed allowed class and generational disparities to grow worse, expanding the divide between asset owners and lower income Americans. The Fed must regain its independence and stop serving the wealthy at the expense of everyone else. This is why I titled this morning's update XRP Wealth Gap. We were explaining this revision on the jobs data. We were explaining how the gap between the haves and the have-nots was only going to widen and get worse. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent echoing the same things. Chamath says President Trump is right. We're now firmly behind the curve and in the too late part of the cycle. Further, it's not really clear that the Fed has a plan beyond an initial cut. We need to move to a system that relies more heavily on real-time data published transparently. And Scott Bessent says if the Fed is data dependent and the data is bad, makeup cuts are needed. President Trump showed the system was broken, and now it's time to fix it with real data. He suggests that E.J. Antoni is the right leader for BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, with integrity, data-driven focus, and relentless commitment to pursuing the truth. Once again, this is not political. This is a matter of understanding our economy, understanding the data that we use to gauge where our economy stands at. And it is clear without a doubt that the previous administration was lying to you. And the current administration is acknowledging that the data was a lie. Now, are they still shooting with how far they're saying how great our economy is coming back? I do believe so, right? But at least this current administration is saying we have a problem, we need to address it. And here's the steps outlined on how we're going to make a difference, how we're going to make America the crypto capital of the world, how we're going to pay off $35 trillion in debt with a little crypto check. I like having those discussions and those ideas. First step is acknowledging that you have a problem. And it's a $35 trillion ticking time bomb. It's over $7 trillion of short-term debt that has to be rolled over. And this is really why they're applying pressure as well, too. Not only do they need to bring relief to Main Street economy, the United States government has a bunch of debt that we have to roll over as well, too. The Fed knew what they were doing. And like I said, they watched us bleed out in the streets. And not only are they holding back from sending in the medics and the relief, they're walking by us and kicking us while we're down. What this sets up is the wealth gap to widen further, the flight to safety to accelerate. This is why XRP $100, in my opinion, is inevitable. And we have many other assets in our portfolio that I think are going to perform pretty well too. Considering that we have 7.4 trillion, a record amount, all-time high, in money market funds. So before they even cut rates, before they turn on the money printer and make it go burr, we already are sitting at an all-time high level of money market funds, 7.4 trillion ready to be deployed. Where's it going to be deployed? Let's get into crypto and talk about it. Let's talk about the flight to safety and where that goes in crypto. Some folks invested in Dogecoin. I have a bag of the crap too. Can't wait to dump it. And I'm hoping that the ETF coming here for Doge is going to help get me some exit liquidity. Eric Balchunas, meme coin ETF era about to kick off, it looks like, with Doge. Slated for a Thursday launch, albeit under the 40 Act. There's a big group of 33 actors waiting for SEC approval still. Pretty sure this is the first ever US ETF to hold something that has no utility or purpose. Now, the Dogecoin army came out of the woodworks to tell Eric that's not true. We have utility. I'm going to let them make that case. While I've already set my sell targets on my Dogecoin, I'll let those guys go make the case for utility to Doge. That's great. And in the ultimate meme, and I talked about this potentially happening, how much of a joke it was going to be, I thought that maybe we'd get the Solana XRP and Dogecoin, maybe Trump coin, maybe Fart coin ETFs all live on the same day. I thought that that's how they would suppress and smack XRP one last time, is they'd say, okay, XRP, we'll finally let you go. Headwinds have shifted to tailwinds. We'll let you go. We'll let it breathe. XRP ETFs go live, but you're going to have to compete with Solana, Dogecoin, Fartcoin, and 5 other, cryptos on the same day. But they're taking it even one step further, it looks like, and they're going to approve a Doge ETF before Solana and before the XRP ETF. Which, this is the point that I want to make, though, very important. We all need to root for the crypto space. Whether you hold the bag of crap or not, you should be rooting when somebody else's bag of crap pumps. You should respect the pump, even if it has no utility. What we want to see is money flowing in. What we want to see is more exposure. And that is exactly what you're going to get, is institutional adoption and inflows. Is it going to go into Dogecoin? I don't think so in a significant way, but sure, there will be some. Now, BlackRock, they're catching up, and this is how the game is played if you haven't been paying attention. They go from Larry Fink saying that it's nothing to worry about, nothing that they care about, nothing that they understand, it's a pet rock, to then saying cryptocurrency is going to transcend traditional currencies. And they go from 0% allocation to 100 billion in crypto, and they're buying more. This is BlackRock. And what comes next is the BlackRock XRP ETF. That ETF alone, I think, could see 5, 10, even 20 billion assets under management within the first year. If they do it and they do it right, which it's impossible for them not to. It would be the biggest blunder BlackRock maybe has ever made. Maybe they have some worse ones, but I mean, if they do not do an XRP ETF, they are leaving billions upon tens of billions off the table, just in assets under management. But then even on the upside that you're going to see with XRP as well too. What we're witnessing now, not clickbait, not hopium, not speculation, hard data. We love hard data. If you love hard data, can you smack the thumbs up for me real quick? Do you guys like hard data in the chat? I do. It's a hell of a lot better than baseless clickbait and hopium shilling, which there's plenty of that to go around. You know where to find that. But when it comes to the hard data, what we've been looking at is how much are we seeing in inflows on Bitcoin and Ethereum? It's substantial. I'm going to show you here shortly. And with all of these other ETFs going live, how much inflows are we going to see into XRP, Solana, Dogecoin, and others? Now, we can look at Canada in 3iQ Digital Asset Management, and they did get a little retweet here from Ripple. Demand for regulated XRP products in Canada continues to grow, with 3iQ corporations XRP ETF. This is trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and they record largest AUMs in their respective categories. We're excited to share that investor demand sees the Solana ETF surpassing 300 million and the XRP ETF exceeding 150 million in AUM. Launched earlier this year, both ETFs quickly established themselves as the largest in their respective categories amongst Canadian peers. Investor confidence has been further reinforced by early commitments from industry leaders, including Skybridge Capital and ARK Invest in Solana, and Ripple and XRPQ. The momentum behind SolQ and XRPQ demonstrates that Canadian investors and global leaders in the digital asset space are embracing secure, transparent, and regulated access to digital assets, said Pascal St. Jean, president and CEO of 3iQ. And I did just watch him. He was on stage there at the SALT conference in Wyoming with Jake Claver, and they had one other gentleman up on stage there with him as well too. That was a nice little session, and it really, has been great to watch here because once again, this is hard data. This is not speculation. Hey, what happens if? What happens when? What's happening now? 150 million Canadian funny money. I got to be clear. 150 million Canadian funny money, which I did convert this for you guys here, Canadian to US dollars. You got the exchange rate there. 1 Canadian dollar equals 72 US dollars. And so 150 million Canadian is 108 million US dollars. And so I'm going to show you what happens when $108 million flows in to XRP, what that could be for a multiplier. And I'm going to show you after we go through the data on what came through this morning. We have a 5-hour window. I got it on my sticky note right here. Once again, hard data, no clickbait. 5 hours where I took the snapshot of the inflows on the hourly basis. And let me show you guys what we're seeing here on CoinGlass. So it starts right here, September 8th, 2025 at 20 o'clock. You get 2.55 million in inflows into XRP. The next hour, you get 5.68. The next hour, 3.05, 6.14, and then the final hour is 9.28 million. So 5 hours for a total of 26.7 million of inflows into XRP during that hour. Once again, 5-hour period this morning, 26.7 million of inflows. What did this do to XRP's market cap? We go to the market cap chart and we measure during this 5-hour period, once again, September 8th, starting at 20 o'clock, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this is where we finished off the top of the hour before it came back down. So the full measured move here, 6.05 billion. So XRP's market cap grew by 6.05 billion this morning off of only 26.7 million of inflows. This is why we've been getting so excited about this multiplier, because it shows us it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, it's not even close. In fact, this example over this 5-hour window is a 226x multiplier. 6.05 billion divided by 26.7 million, 226.59. So your multiplier this morning during that period was 226. Let's go have fun. Remember, I told you that the Canadian XRP ETF is now at 108 million assets under management. So if we get 108 million coming in from another ETF here in America, times a 226 multiplier, you would see 24,408,000,000 added to XRP's market cap, which would really not be that much. Back to the market cap chart. If you saw 24 billion, we're right at 176. that takes us back up to a $200 billion XRP. And we were there not too long ago, right? I'm zoomed in on the hourly chart right now, but we're not talking about much more than probably, I think, a $340, $350 XRP. But mind you, this would be for one ETF. There are dozens on the way for XRP. Not just one, dozens. Now, to see XRP at $100, as I titled tonight's episode, can I back it up? Or was it just clickbait? No, we're absolutely going to back it up. Rounding off at 60 billion circulating supply, a $100 XRP would be a $6 trillion market cap. Now, I just showed you a 226x multiplier. I'm going to be even more conservative. We're only going to use a 200x multiplier. 6 trillion divided by 200 is only 30 billion. Meaning that if we had a 200x multiplier on the ETF inflows that come in, and we get 30 billion of inflows year one, give or take, you're looking at double-digit XRP with ease, right? Don't come at me. We're looking at double-digit XRP with ease. And in fact, we could be looking at even that $100 price. Now, maybe this is too much, too bullish. Zach, let's get more conservative. Let's do that. Let's take our multiplier to 100. You're looking at 60 billion of inflows. Is 60 billion of inflows too far? Not at all. We went to over 50 billion assets under management for the Bitcoin ETFs in 2 months after the Bitcoin ETFs went live. I repeat, we went to over 60 billion assets under management for the Bitcoin ETFs 2 months. In the middle of March 2024, about 2 months after the ETFs went live. 60 billion. Now, I just showed you, if we get 30 billion coming into XRP ETFs, you might be looking at a $50 XRP with ease. You might even be looking at a $100 XRP. Once again, only 30 billion of inflows. If we get 60 billion of inflows, well, yeah. And this is where I like to find myself a range. Just like we do on our timelines, we give ourselves a window of opportunity. Just like we do on price targets, we give ourselves a range of price. When it comes to this multiplier and this speculative work that I do, I like to stay conservative and give myself a range of speculation. Canary Capital CEO predicts 5 billion inflows first month. JP Morgan predicts 4 to 8 billion first year. I predict 10 to 20 billion first year with ease. And we might even see more because we did it for Bitcoin. Here's the Bitcoin ETF asset under management chart. And as you can see, back here on March 13th, which the ETFs went live January 11th. So literally within 2 months, they went to 63.45 billion in assets under management. Currently, you're at 146 billion total net assets, total assets under management, 146 billion. And this number got up as high as 155 billion. So for the Bitcoin ETFs, assets under management went above 60 billion within 2 months. And it went, when did it cross over 100 billion for the first time? In November of 2024, during the November election pump. It went over 100 billion for the first time. So it took, what was that, 10 months, right? Into November, 10, 11 months for the Bitcoin ETFs to reach over 100 billion assets under management. Now, here we are a year, basically a year and 10 months later. Not even, right? Because we're into what, September? So you got a year and 9 months, right? It hasn't even taken 2 years for Bitcoin ETFs to see over 150 billion assets under management. And once again, back to the math. If you saw 30 billion of inflows into XRP or eclipse 30 billion assets under management with a 200x multiplier, you're at that 6 trillion market cap. So please, can we stop the nonsense in regards to XRP can't go to $100 because that'd be a 6 trillion market cap? We are showing you with hard data how little in inflows it's going to take us to get there. Now, please remember, as I wrap up my point here and we open up the chat for comments and questions, rapid fire Q&A, please remember the full checklist. Please account for all of the catalysts. We are just talking about inflows from ETFs. We're not talking about me and you, Joe Blow, moving in. We're not talking about 401ks. We're not talking about the 7 trillion assets under management. 7 trillion in the money market funds. We're not talking about the 8 to 12 trillion in 401ks. We're not talking about the digital asset treasury companies that are going to put it on their balance sheet. We're not talking about the broader institutional adoption. We're not talking about XRP DeFi. On the flip side, as I mentioned, we also don't know how quickly they are going to devalue the United States dollar. What we do know is that the Fed has been backed into a corner. They are giving up the fight against inflation to go solve the issues that the labor market now faces, to go save the day when it comes to our jobs market. So we know the trend is not our friend when it comes to inflation unless you own hard assets. Then we do make the trend our friend. Then we do get on the right side of the transfer of wealth. Not everybody does, which is a very important point. And this is why I think that XRP is going to be, if not the biggest, but the most chosen, or one of the most chosen assets when it comes to the flight to safety that's going to ensue. Really, it's already underway. I mean, gold and silver, right? XRP, stock market already up to new all-time highs. And so when I add up all these catalysts for XRP, and I consider the fact that most of our community believes in a $100 or $1,000 XRP, it leads me to believe that we could see XRP become the chosen store of value, and also at the same time, the chosen ledger for its utility, which sets up a very interesting dynamic where XRP can actually outperform Bitcoin, Ethereum, and almost every other major cryptocurrency out here, just like it's already done. And so once again, two things drive the price for XRP: all of its utility, ETFs, digital asset treasury companies, institutional adoption, DeFi, etc. Joe Blow throwing $50 at it. All of it adds up. And then on the other side, how quickly is the dollar going to be devalued? Is XRP going to reach $100 from utility, or is it going to reach $100 because they're going to devalue the currency so fast? It's going to be a combination of both. And you just got the signal from the Fed that it's game on, in the sense that we've given up on inflation. We bring this full circle to let our community know you are in the right place. You are in the chosen asset when it comes to the flight to safety in an offensive measure. For defense, we have our precious metals. We throw some seeds in some dirt. Maybe we grow some broccoli. When it comes to offense, we are not here. We like to consistently hit singles and doubles and hit a nice batting average. But when it comes to XRP and some of these other ones, we have knocked the stitching off the ball, if you guys know the baseball reference. We have knocked it out of the park. While folks are still playing around in traditional finance, trying to generate returns of 4 to 8%. We just did 400%. Still have another 400% upside. I don't know what the percentage gain is from a $3 XRP to a $100 XRP. But in my mind, it's inevitable. Can I give you the exact date or hour? No. Can I give you a window of opportunity? Absolutely. I think in the next 5 years. And Dom and Phil Kwok, they're in the camp suggesting a $1,000 XRP. Whoa. I forgot we're not supposed to talk about a $1,000 XRP, right? $1,000 XRP by 2030. We've had other folks, right, put out predictions for a $1,000 XRP this year. Jake Claver has probably been one of the most notable people in the XRP family, suggesting that we could see some big things play out if his catalysts drop, if the dominoes fall. Right? If those dominoes fall, and this is what I'm saying, all those catalysts that drive XRP up at the same time the dollar is being devalued, if all of these catalysts play out, we could get there faster. And I would love, gosh, if I could be wrong about anything, please, God, let us be wrong about how quickly XRP is going to go to $100 and $1,000. But I just want to remind everybody, as I mentioned earlier, nobody in Bitcoin thought that it was going to go from $3 to $100 or $3 to $1,000, let alone $100,000 where we're at today. You compare that with the sentiment and the understanding in the XRP community, we think it's prophecy set in stone that XRP is going to 589 or 1,000. And I'm suggesting to you guys that it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because so little people are willing to sell this asset, which is my objective, why I went through all of my portfolio last week. And I set sell targets on every single asset that I have. Some of these assets I'm selling off 100% of them because I don't want to dive into my XRP bag. I have a little bit of an XRP trading bag. I plan on selling that. But other than that, if I don't have to touch all of my, I don't have to touch any of my long-term XRP holdings, that is the objective. But you don't do that. You will not execute on that plan if you don't get your ducks in a row on these platforms. I don't care what exchange you're using, what platform you're using, what crap coins you got. Hopefully you found some runners and hopefully you catch that exit liquidity and you're able to rotate into better assets. You're able to rotate into hard assets like real estate, like business. Buy equipment for your business. Go buy out your competitor. Many in the XRP family are going to be starting up the charity work as well too, simultaneously. Building our businesses, also spending more time towards our charity work. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy that XRP goes to these prices because our community believes it. Perception is reality. On top of this, we can confirm it now with hard data. Belief was one thing, right? But now we can back it up with the data. So with that being said, I want to open it up for rapid fire Q&A. If you guys appreciate it, make sure you like this video, help us out by sharing it out far and wide. But I want to hear from everybody in the comments down below. Do you believe in a $100 XRP during our lifetime? That's all. This is a simple question. During our lifetime, not this year, not by 2030, just in our lifetime. Do you believe in a $100 XRP? And I encourage you guys to go read the comments, and what you're going to see is that the overwhelming majority of the XRP family answers yes. On TikTok, I have not seen a no. YouTube comments are delayed slightly. I haven't seen a no either. 1,000%, 100%, $100,000. Yes, 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 absolutely. I have not seen one no. That's my point. Thank you very much. Rapid fire Q&A. Cheers, everybody. God bless you. This structure is still intact. There's not a dang thing to worry about other than Main Street economy and staying liquid out here. How much of these assets can we stack? That's the only thing to worry about. God bless it. God bless it. I haven't seen a no yet. Can somebody say no just to mix it up? Everyone in the XRP family believes in a $100 XRP. It's prophecy. Let's get it. Rapid fire Q&A. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. We got some super chats to catch up on. By the way, too, I wanted to let everybody know. We are still taking folks that want to sit down and do a one-on-one session. I won't give you financial advice, but I will sit down with you and we can cover some things. And I'll just be honest with you guys when it comes to your portfolio, your business, or any other things, any other questions that you have for me. But the schedule is filling up pretty quick. We are booked out for about 2 weeks right now. So if you want to get on the schedule for a one-on-one session, do it now. We're running out of time here, I think, before this alt season tops out. And right now, the schedule has filled up here for the next 2 weeks. We are booked out. So if you're looking to get on the schedule now, now is the time to do so. All of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. Okay. Now, let's get into it. John starting us off tonight with a nice 10 spot. I appreciate that, John. Thank you. Dennis coming in. NASDAQ seeking approval to trade tokenized now. Yes. And that gal, the CEO of NASDAQ, she's going to be at Ripple Swell Conference. Looking forward to that one. Along with BlackRock, along with Fidelity, Citi, everybody. Excuse me. Basically, the who's who of Wall Street is showing up at Ripple Swell Conference. Absolutely. Chosen one collecting. My favorite mint bullion for precious metals has got to be Andy Schectman's firm, Miles Franklin. Over 33 years in business, best in service, some of the best pricing that you can find as well too. And I really just appreciate the friendship. Andy has taught me a lot about precious metals, and so he is linked up. He is the only affiliate for precious metals that we have currently. We do have some things in the work when it comes to 401ks. I'm excited to let you guys know about that. But for the time being, Andy Schectman, Miles Franklin, he's the only resource listed on our website for precious metals. No guns, just knife. Thank you for the 10 spot. Hi, Zach. What are your thoughts regarding HBAR versus XRP during this bull run and long-term investing, considering HBAR at present has no ETFs pending? Yeah, so this is one of the assets that I actually broke down in my exit strategy video that I did last week. HBAR it's a pretty good example because it shows us that many of these tokens have a problem in regards to their tokenomics. Back in 2021, when HBAR went to a 55-cent all-time high, it had 9 billion tokens. Now, currently, it has 42 billion. So you're going to need a lot more in inflows. You're up against way more bag holders. And the problem is that you will not get ETFs for HBAR in the next 6 months from what I can see, because there's no futures market at the CME or any big exchange for HBAR futures. Now, Coinbase has them and a few others have them, but the SEC is looking for the CME and others to have them listed, CBOE, CME. And so I worry that HBAR is not going to get ETFs this year. I worry because nobody's putting HBAR on their balance sheet for digital asset treasury companies. And what we can see right now is that they're ready, 10,000 TPS, big partners on their governing council, big promises have been made. But when we ask, where's the rubber meeting the road in regards to companies and institutions actually using your token, we can't find it. And so for the 3 boxes, they cannot be checked off for ETF, for digital asset treasury company, and for institutional adoption. That means that you are relying solely on retail pushing it, unless somebody flips a switch and institutions decide to dive in, which could happen, and I think will happen for HBAR next year. But as far as how does HBAR perform between now and October, between now and November, when we could see these assets run up before the ETFs, and then a buy the rumor, sell the news event plays off, I'm not expecting HBAR to hit the $1.50, $2 targets that I'd shared in my deep dive earlier this year. So I updated the Discord group with my updated sell targets for HBAR, which are much lower than that. And HBAR is one that I have lowered my targets on because the tokenomics are up against everybody holding that token in a major way. And without the ETFs and DATs and institutional adoption, this year, the likelihood of seeing those higher targets that I had has dropped substantially. I've acknowledged that. I've lowered my targets. Those orders are placed and I'm waiting for them to be filled. Okay. I did the same thing on my XLM, on my XDC. Do I have? Oh, no, I don't have it right there. On my Flare token, on my DAG. I'm trying to think if there's any others, and a few other tokens as well. And those are all the big positions that I have in crypto. And I'm in the process right now of reviewing all of the other coins that my community has asked me to take a look at. But I've basically lowered targets across the board on all of these cryptos because XLM has no ETF filings. HBAR has a couple, but they won't go live till 2026 most likely. XDC, there's like 1 ETF filing, maybe 2. Not going to go live anytime soon. No digital asset treasury companies for XDC. Same case for Flare. So, and then once again, you're up against the tokenomics. There's way more tokens in supply, circulating supply now versus 2021. So nobody wants to have to lower targets. That's not good clickbait content. I cannot lead with that. People do not want to tune into that type of video where I'm saying, hey, I've lowered my targets, but I just try to keep it real with you guys. I'm not here to just deliver you what you want to hear. I'm here to deliver what you need to hear. And that's what separates our analysis from the rest. Now, continuing on here, a couple more super chats to catch up on. Dennis, November 23rd, the fake XRP ETF filing. You needed BlackRock's security code in order to file. Did anyone get busted? No. So BlackRock tipped their hand and has been buying since accidental S1 filing. That I forgot about that. The BlackRock filing, which showed up very interesting. Wasn't it an entity in Delaware? It was like a trust in Delaware that they had set up. And many of these companies do this, right? Where Grayscale has an XLM trust right now for accredited investors, an XRP trust right now for accredited investors. And what they do is they roll it over into a spot ETF from the trust company that they've created. And so BlackRock made a filing. Everybody said it was fake, but I don't believe for 1 second that BlackRock's going to miss this party. So whether or not that one was real or not, Dennis, thank you. Thank you for reminding us of that one. Zach Rector 7s, is this your official Discord, Zach? Yes, Messiah. Yep, the official link is through my Patreon, and that's all of my official links are on my website, zachrector.com. And Zach Rector 7's Discord is the title of my Discord group. I encourage you, once you get into my Discord, to go to the announcements channel. That's where you will see me and only me, not the fake impersonators of me, posting. Right? If you go to the announcements channel, you'll see me posting in there, and you can add me as a friend. I'll accept your request, and then we'll have a direct line of communication, and you'll know that you're not talking with a scammer. $15 XRP before or after GTA 6, which is now set to release on 5/26/26. Already, that's exciting. I know what have we been waiting, like years for GTA 6? I used to tear it up on the GTA. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Good time. Yeah, I think that we see $15 XRP before that. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'm still looking to see if we can break it into double-digit XRP this year. I think that there's a good chance of that. I'm just watching because there has been a buy the rumor, sell the news event when the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs went live. Bitcoin dropped 30%, Ethereum dropped 40% after the ETFs went live. But then as I showed you earlier in this live show tonight, within 2 months, the Bitcoin ETFs had surpassed 60 billion assets under management. In March of 2024, that's when Bitcoin went up to 74,000. So despite the fact that the day the ETFs went live, Bitcoin topped out at 49,000, dropped 30% to 38,500. After that, it then continued to pump to new all-time highs, and it doubled up again, essentially going to 74,000. Same thing is going to happen for XRP, but it might even be more, where you could see maybe even a stronger pullback after the ETFs go live. But then the launch after that, I think is going to be bigger. I think that the XRP ETFs are going to outperform the Ethereum ETFs, and I think that they have a chance to catch up and surpass the Bitcoin ETFs within a year or two. It'll take some time, but I do think that there's a chance that it could happen. Nick Patterson, good to see you, my friend. My current multiplier, I keep on stacking XRP. Hashtag preach Zach. Brother Nick, great to hear from you. Great to see you. And thank you so much for your support, brother. Means the world. Means the world to us. And thank you for your connection. Thank you for your friendship, brother. I appreciate it. Philip, thank you. Safest tested storage to get coins off exchanges. If you don't want to deal with exchanges, you need to go deal with Caleb and Brown. It's just that simple. They're the best in service, free institutional grade custody. But when it comes to cold storage, I like Decent and I like EliPow right now. Both of those wallets are listed on my website, zachrector.com. in the community resources tab. Also, I want to let everybody know when it comes to legal and estate planning, there's a link in the description down below, and we've added it to the website as well too. But down below in the description of this video, you'll see the legal and estate planning, and there's a Calendly link. You can set up a free consultation right now with Mark Kohler's law firm, KKOS Lawyers. And I just did so myself today. I gave an opportunity for my Discord community. We had over a dozen people already go to sign up and set up their entities, whether it be LLCs, S corporations, trusts, etc. We've already sent over a bunch of people over there, and I wanted to give my Discord community an opportunity to get on the schedule first. But just today, I scheduled a call and had a great initial consultation with somebody from their team. And then next week, we're going to be sitting down for my comprehensive estate planning. And now, this was a chunk of change. I cut a check today for this, but this is going to be setting up my whole trust and my whole foundation. And so I'll set up a revocable trust, and above that, I'll be I make my income, I make my money through my businesses. I have multiple LLCs for my property service business, which I've now sold off, but then I have my media business as well. And then on the other side, on our investments, we'll be creating additional entities for real estate, etc. And then it all flows down to our revocable trust. That's the trifecta structure that Mark Kohler talks about. You can watch his videos publicly on YouTube, some of the best stuff on legal and estate planning. So I'm looking to set up my trifecta. The first step in that is the comprehensive estate planning. And so I just cut him a check here today, and I got my call scheduled next week to get that process started. And, I was told that it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get the trust papers delivered and signed and sealed from the time that you start the process. So I just cut him a check today myself. This is something that I'm in the process of setting up, but I would encourage you guys to get your ducks in a row in regards to entities, structures, and estate planning before we see significant price appreciation. And weigh your options, right? You could do this yourself. You just run the risk of messing things up. And when it comes to these investments, which for many of us is significant, this is not something to take lightly and do yourself and try to save a few hundred or a few $1,000 just to mess it all up and blow your whole structure and entity and lose it all. So I was, and we've gotten great feedback. I'll let you guys know how that process goes. But when I share community resources with you guys, it's because I use them myself too. I believe in Caleb and Brown. I believe in Uphold. I have used Coinbase. I'm not not my favorite right now. Coinbase is not my favorite, right? But I'm in love with Caleb and Brown right now. I'm using them myself. I'm in love with what we've seen so far with Mark Kohler's law firm. I'm using them myself. And when I find valuable resources, I'm going to continue to share them with you guys. If you don't want to use them, that's fine. No harm, no foul, right? There's plenty of other providers out there, and we want to see healthy competition. The great news, we have the gold. We have the XRP. And now all of these service providers come to take care of us. They're all competing for our business. It's a good spot to be in. Okay. Jonas Frug, thank you for the super chat. BlackRock ETFs, what's the deal, Zach? Appreciate you, man. Like I said earlier, there's no way that they're going to miss this. I believe the SEC has already put out this checklist that allows you to streamline the process for getting your ETF approved. And I believe that BlackRock knew that that was coming. And so they knew that they were going to be able to wait till the last minute to file this XRP spot ETF. And it probably allowed them to acquire XRP on the low. And we talked about this in yesterday's update. And over the weekend, we've been watching outflows from the biggest centralized exchanges. And what's happening is our community doesn't trust these centralized exchanges. And so we're moving to, brokerage platforms like Caleb and Brown that offer institutional grade custody, and it has bankruptcy remote protection as well too. So we're moving them to, service providers like that. And then we're also moving our XRP off to cold storage. But then I put on my tinfoil hat and a little bit of speculation. And I believe that you're also seeing the ETF issuers might be going through, and specifically Coinbase. We already know and have confirmation that Aladdin customers, which Aladdin is BlackRock's trading algorithm AI beast, right? The beast machine that BlackRock has created to control these markets is Aladdin, and they have sold off the rights to that technology to some of their clients. And now all of those clients get to use Coinbase Prime, institutional grade custody, and OTC trading desk. So we have the confirmation. So, 2 + 2 still equals 4, right? We're seeing hundreds of millions of XRP get drained off of Coinbase. That's you and me, Joe Blow, pulling our XRP to, cold storage. I'm just telling you guys what I'm doing. I'm sending XRP to Caleb and Brown. And I believe that the ETF issuers are also kind of front running, and they're draining the supply on exchanges right now as well. J Mo, thank you for the 10 spot. Zach, realistically, what is the predicted top and when, more or less? I understand this is impossible to know, but your best guess. Yeah, J Mo, I appreciate it. It's the $1 trillion question, isn't it? And I've laid out my case here. It remains the same. I've made a few adjustments to targets, but the timeline that we've been watching is October. And I'll take you to my XRP chart. Let me zoom out real quick. If we follow the July fractal, you're looking at a $4.50 XRP here in this month by September 17th interest rate decision. But really, we zoom out further to my green line right here, which is October 17th. This to me is the finish line for the ETF race, the buy the rumor, sell the news event, where we run up. And I have my box now at $4 to $7. So I now believe that we see $4 to $7 XRP before October 17th. That's the next step. As far as this train has left the station, where's the next stop? The next stop is somewhere between $4 and $7 XRP by October 17th. Okay? And I'm just one guy out here sharing my analysis, sharing my moves as much as I can. Do we get it right all the time? No. But the important thing is that even on the margin, we're making money. You have to understand. Okay, XRP didn't go to $4 by this date. Zach, you suck. Okay. But we said it was going to $4 back when it was at $2. I mean, really, we said it was going to $4 back when it was at 20 cents. But when I started to share this updated targets and timelines in my purple box, this is when XRP was at $2. So yeah, XRP didn't go all the way to 4, but goodness gracious, could you not find a way to make some money on the margin in between $2 and $3.66? That's my point. You don't have, and this is the spot that not only have I gotten to, but I want to see our community get to, is that even if you don't hit your target and maybe your timeline's off by a few days or a little bit, you're still making money. That's the spot that you want to be in, right? Oh, wow, Zach, $4 didn't hit. You suck. Still in that XRP long, still making money. That's the spot to be in. And so when we look here, I've had to make my adjustments. We thought that we had a chance here of seeing $7 to $15 XRP by September 7th. Part of the way through August, we said, nah, it's not going to happen. When we fell short of this target, $4 to $5 by, that was August 12th. When we fell short and we only went to 366, we said, okay, guys, time to make some adjustments here. $7 to $15, let's X out this target. Not going to happen. But we're still looking here at this window of opportunity between now and October 17th. And we still see a good potential here, $4 to $7 XRP. And by the way, we trade now at $2.95. My XRP long is now back in profit because this is an XRP long position that I started stacking at 340. I top blasted the chart and made a mistake, but I made up for it by dollar cost averaging into XRP, my XRP long, all the way down at 308, 302, 296, 292, 280 something. And I think eventually the lowest that I got was under 280. Coinbase hitting me with spread and slippage the entire time, but we were still able to lower that average down to 292. So we're trading at 295 right now. I know that that's the spot price, and there's been an arbitrage opportunity where on the futures market on Coinbase, it's trading at a 2 to 3 cent premium. So if we're at 295, basically almost 296, that means that on the futures order book, we're going to be at 298, 299. So my XRP long's back in profit. And this is a great example of how you don't have to be trading leverage or futures, but this is how you dollar cost average into positions and lower your average down. Once again, when I bought that first long at 340, I knew I was buying it because I believed in XRP, and this is a short-term trade, but I still believed in XRP going to higher prices sooner rather than later. As XRP came back down and went on sale, I didn't say, oh gosh, I missed it. I screwed up. I'm not going to make money. I'm going to give up and I'm going to quit. We did not do that. We just kept adding and adding and adding to the position till we lowered our average to 292. Now I have the biggest XRP long that I've ever amassed, and my average is at 292 with the setup and structure for us to go above $4 here this month or before October 17th. And it doesn't even have to go, once again, doesn't even have to go to $4 for us to make a lot of money. You don't have to be trading leverage, but this is how you acquire spot positions, dollar cost averaging in with conviction. Knowing that if I like the asset at 350, why would I not love it at 270, at 280, at 290? Oh no, my opportunity at sub $3 XRP is gone. And that day's coming. That day's coming. I know people, these guys and these trolls. Every time you make a video, the price drops. Well, I make a video every day. Whether the market's going up or down. Is there a correlation there? No. It's called consistency. If I make content every day, some days the market goes up, some days the market goes down. That's inevitable. And I just love it. All these guys. Man, you haven't gotten a right prediction all year. Well, goodness gracious, why does the portfolio keep growing? How does that work? Can somebody explain that to me? Thoughts on Cardano? I'm working on it. It's one of the projects that I'm going to be reviewing. In some of these coins, I'll be sharing my public targets with you guys. I don't own the coins, and I don't really have any bias. So on some of these coins that I'm going to be reviewing, the Discord community has given me their suggestions, and the list that I have here is pretty good. And so I'm just in a sprint now to get out these videos for you guys, and a lot of them will be shared publicly. You gave up on XRP. It's unfortunate because as I've mentioned, as we see here, there's still so many bullish catalysts in front of us. Sailor is the #1 Muppet. Yeah, Stu, I'm going to be doing a video. I'm going to be doing some content on these digital asset treasury companies, including Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy, Tom Lee's Bitmain for Ethereum. It's pretty interesting what they're doing because they're looking to drive supply shock on these assets. And I don't think that people understand that that's what this is about. Like, these companies are basically trying to do what the Hunt brothers did with silver back in the 80s. A lot of you guys know about that, right? They're trying to corner the market. Tom Lee wants to get 5% of the Ethereum supply. He's also betting on some other public companies in the space. They made an investment in some company that I don't even know what they do in Ethereum, but they're part of the Ethereum ecosystem. They made a 20, maybe $30 million investment that's now worth nearly $1 billion. They did a 25x on this investment. And so not only are they trying to corner all the supply for these assets, they're also investing in the picks and the shovels within these ecosystems as well too. Now, when this starts to become public, because I think it's already happening for XRP, It's just been happening behind the scenes. But when it comes public, it's going to be too late to react. You're going to be missing out because XRP is already going to be at a much higher price. XRP is a dud. It only did well last year, November time. That's just not true. Please come correct, please. TikTok, behave yourselves over here, okay? No FUD, straight facts, please. Okay, let's go rapid fire Q&A. How's everybody doing tonight? I heard people are working hard testing Aladdin on the XRP ledger. Already have Ondo, OUSG stocks, next hidden road related. Yeah, Dennis. Yep, I'm seeing some rumors on that. Can't confirm it, but absolutely. Chosen One collecting after XRP moons, COD with the boys. I might have to hit some, I don't know. I don't know how much I want my children and my son to get into video games because I know that I took video games too far. I was too deep into video games. I had to literally cut myself off. Like I had a problem. I was very good at Call of Duty, and the last game that I played was Battlefield 3. And we would absolutely wreck everybody. We were really good. I had a lot of fun. But it was taken away from life and business. And I don't see myself really making a return to video games, but I'd be lying to you if I said that I couldn't sit down and enjoy a nice 2-hour session just running around playing some domination and just wrecking some people real quick. That's a nice way to spend a couple hours. But at this stage of my life, I don't have any time for that. But I would have wrecked all you guys in Call of Duty. I'm just letting you know that right now. A 360 quick scope, you would have been done. Okay? I'm just letting you know. Okay? Zach, would you sell your big gains on a certain stock today to buy more XRP? The upside's just not even close from what I can see. Stocks compared to crypto. Obviously, some stocks are outliers, but those are very tough to find. And it looks to me like we're due for a stock market correction. And you very well could see a buy the rumor, sell the news on the interest rate cut. Even, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and others are warning that this could be a buy the rumor, sell the news event on the September rate cut. So watch out for that correction in the stock market. But then also, I just think that you have way more upside ROI on crypto. It's just not even really close. A beer coin, that's very interesting. Thank you for the 5 spot. I appreciate that. Mac Daddy, thank you for the 5 spot. Zach, how do you add onto your long contract futures on Coinbase so that you don't get liquidated? Thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to be dropping another trading lesson talking about adding stop loss, take profit, a few different things that you can do. That'll be dropping for the Discord community, but I will just say I can refer you to how do you add to your so you don't get liquidated? Yeah. So what I do is it's the same thing as setting limit orders. Basically, I would add margin to my Coinbase futures account, and just by having that margin, it lowers your liquidation level. So the way that I was able to not get liquidated during this whole time when the market was bleeding out is because I always kept extra liquidity in my margin, which is just in US dollars in your Coinbase account. And then they see that and they say, okay, he's got plenty of margin, so we're not going to liquidate him until XRP goes back down to $2.20. So all this volatility, everybody's freaking out. You sleep like a baby because your margin is full, your liquidation level drops. That's one way. The second way is to just set limit orders as well. Now, obviously, this would cut into your margin. So if you have 5,000 margin, but you go to place an order, you're going to buy 3,000 into your XRP long, and so you place that order, it removes that from your margin account, so your liquidation level is going to bounce up. But what's going to happen is if the market comes back down, say XRP's at 280, you're going to buy $3,000 of an XRP long at 270. When it comes down, you'll enter that trade. It'll fill that order, and then it should lower your liquidation level. So you want to maintain your margin, and then you can set limit orders just like you would trading spot. Same thing for the futures as well. So hopefully that answers your question. Mac Daddy. Nice name. I like that. That's a good one. Okay, all caught up on the super chats. Let's go rapid fire with it. Let's go XRP. Yep. I'm going to be dropping the interview with Caleb and Brown Thursday morning. So stay ready for that. Just had Jim Bazzani back on. I'm excited to report back that they do have their new app for US clients is available on the Apple App Store. So iOS app is now live. So Apple users, go download the Caleb and Brown app. And you can find that linked up down below, of course. But I'm excited that they have the app now live, and I confirm with Jim that the US entity is rocking and rolling. They have an office live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So this is not an entity that is just strictly out of Australia. Shout out to the Aussies in the chat. We love you. We just don't trust your government. But need not worry. Caleb and Brown now has all of the US clients under their US entity. They have offices in Fort Lauderdale. He said that they're looking to open up an office on the West Coast as well, too. So that's very good. Very good. Had a great conversation. Do I know anything about Wealthsimple in Canada? I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I don't know if is it a brokerage platform or just an exchange? I think it's just an exchange. But I think they might do stocks and crypto. Caleb and Brown, they're still working on coming to Canada, UK, and New York. But right now, they're still not in those jurisdictions. But they have licenses across all the other states within the US. Excuse me. Beercoin asked me, do you think that Claver is crazy for his end of year price predictions? Yes, I do. I told him that. I talked with him a few weeks ago. Had a good conversation with Jake. Nobody thought that Bitcoin was going to go to $100 when it was back at $3. Nobody thought that Bitcoin was going to go to $1,000 back when it was at $2-3. And like I said earlier in today's video, the community is convinced 100% that this asset's going to 100 or even $1,000 in our lifetimes, which sets up an interesting dynamic and almost a self-fulfilling prophecy in my mind of how this plays out over the next 5 to 10 years, right? The only thing that I see changing that is if we didn't get the institutional adoption that we're expecting and that we're kind of already observing. If that fell apart for whatever reason, that would be a hindrance. And the only other variable I think that really switches up the amount of people willing to sell their XRP would be the situation on the ground getting so bad that more and more people are forced to sell. But nobody wants to sell. And I think if the catalyst that Jake has laid out did play out, you would be talking about a lot higher price XRP. Would you hit the 750, the $1,000? I've done the math on my speculation on what it would take in inflows. It's not impossible. I don't believe it to be impossible. Once again, you're talking about the value of XRP going up based off of utility, inflows, etc. You're also talking about the dollar being debased. And I always like to share the example because to me it's probably relatable when you think about what you pay for groceries. And when I think about the fact that if I told my great grandparents that lived through the Great Depression that I was spending $7 on a pumpkin spicy latte silly drink, they would smack me. Okay. My sweet great grandmother and my great grandfather, it probably would have been my great grandfather. My great grandmother, she would never have done such a thing. Although this might have drawn her out too. She might have, what the heck are you thinking? $7 for a woke Starbucks latte. Nobody ever thought that we would be here paying $4 for a gallon of gas, paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month for rent, $2, $3, $4, $5,000 a month in a mortgage. Nobody ever thought that we would be here. And so I'm not willing to rule out the high prices. And I think as Jake has laid out too, all the catalysts would need to hit. And I think a big part of his theory is how much XRP is going to be used as the response and basically the solution to the debt, currency, and liquidity crisis that we've been talking about, right? And he's done a good job covering the Japan carry trade and how that's just one part of the global margin call. And so we've said, hey, if there's anything that we could be wrong about, praise God if we're wrong about that one, right? So let's get back here. A couple more questions did come in. Scott Dice asked, Zach, talk to us about DeFi borrowing options on our XRP. Well, yeah, and this is why I had a conversation with Jake a couple weeks ago, was to keep, I like to keep updated on Digital Wealth Partners and everything that they're doing. They have the biggest XRP funds. Their growth fund, their income fund, both of those now are over 200 million in assets under management, on top of the 500 million in assets under management that they have outside of those XRP funds. So I've watched them go from a few million assets under management on their private equity deals to 700 million assets under management. To say that they've taken off on a rocket ship is probably an understatement. Now, they have their XRP funds, and the first quarter results came in. That was Q2 of this year, and they didn't really perform all that well yet. And so I'm going to continue to watch to see how those perform. We did discuss, I talked with Jake about some other funds that he has coming down the pipeline as well too. Additional ways that they'll be looking to earn yield on their XRP. But they have the biggest XRP funds so far, okay? So that's one option that we find ourselves looking at as we look at all opportunities to generate yield on our XRP. Flare is saying that it is inevitable that their yield opportunity is going to be coming live before December. And in fact, they said it's imminent. Imminent Flare F assets. That should be interesting. The yield that we're hearing is anywhere from like 4 to 8%, not above 10%. I don't think it's 8-9%. I think it's 4 to 8% is kind of what I'm gathering on what you can earn on your Flare. But that's not live yet. Nexo has been providing yield on XRP for quite some time. Never really was too fond of their exchange. I've heard really not any bad things about Nexo, but that they did have to take down US users after they got sued. Okay? So that is one thing that we observed. Folks, give me 1 second here. 1 sec. Okay, we are back. I heard a large bang downstairs, and I just went and checked with my wife, and she didn't even hear it. She didn't know what it was. So I don't know what just happened. Probably was my son. He finds a way to kick his crib and make a ruckus, or maybe it was one of my neighbors. But anyway, sorry. Just had to check on that real quick and make sure that the house was still in order and they weren't running up on me. All is well. Okay. So we are back. Just had to double check and make sure that we were secure. Now, where did we leave off? Where did we leave off? Yield opportunities. Yeah. Thank you. So Flare's coming. Nexo, they've been providing yield for quite some time, but I don't really trust them. Centralized exchange, and I still don't even know how they generate their yield other than they're letting other people borrow on their platform, which always scares me, because if the way that you're generating yield is you're lending out assets, basically you're lending out crypto to leverage traders to go trade with, and then you're making your money on their fees, you're making your money on the spreads and the slippage from their trading, but then you're also making money when basically you liquidate them. Well, the problem that I worry about is, how sustainable is that going to be? Nexo's been around for quite some time, but they're just not a platform that I've ever used myself. But I've heard some good things and bad things about Nexo. So you have Digital Wealth Partners is the biggest XRP fund. They're centralized. They're like a traditional registered investment advisor. Pretty traditional setup over there. Watching them, waiting for Flare. Nexo's now live. I saw the newest one was Soil. They're backed by Ripple, apparently, they claim. They're going to offer 7% yield on RLUSD, not on XRP, but on RLUSD. So watch that. Doppler Finance is producing about 3% yield. Still not absolutely sure how they're generating it, other than they have quants trading and some strategies, etc. Haven't really been able to get into the nuts and bolts of how that yield's generated, but it's been interesting to see. They've been able to spit out 3%, 3 to 4% returns pretty consistently so far. And there might be a couple others, but I don't I don't think that there's any that are spitting out any more than 3 or 4% from what I've seen. Soil's at 7%. Uphold will do 5% on your RLUSD. So there's going to be a lot of yield opportunities for RLUSD as well. And that's something that, I've been having conversations with folks, and something that I'm looking to do myself too, is to build up this bag of stable coins where you'll be earning more yield on these stable coins than you would on a treasury bill, on a savings or a CD, where, you could earn 4% on your T-bill right now. But if RLUSD on Uphold's paying you 5%, it's a little bit better than a T-bill, and you're not having to take on a bunch of risk. How Uphold's generating that difference. They're making the 4% on the T-bill, and then they're covering the 100 basis point difference through their business. So it's not too much. It's that's kind of the wheelhouse that I'm looking for. 5 to 10% sustainable yield on XRP, RLUSD, etc. But Scott, yeah, I'm going to be watching all of these. Ooh, we got a fake Zach in the chat. What is this? Everybody thinks that I had to go to the bathroom. Taco Bell's hitting. No Taco Bell tonight for me. I had pho. Yep. I had the meatball pho. Pretty good stuff. Can you stake XRP on Caleb and Brown? That's a good question. You cannot. They do not do any DeFi or staking or leveraged trading, which actually makes them less vulnerable to the liquidity crisis and kind of having any other issues if things do blow up. They're not leveraged themselves. They're not giving a bunch of leverage out. They're not doing DeFi and loans and stuff like that. They're just doing straight up buying and trading, buying and selling for you. So that's one of the reasons why I feel comfortable on Caleb and Brown, is because they're not one of these platforms that's doing all sorts of different leverage products. If the house of cards comes crashing down, Caleb and Brown has no liability. They store your assets at Fireblocks. When you make a trade, they make money. That's their business. There is no leverage, there is no DeFi, there is no games being played. Yep. Yeah, very low risk. Now, let me, and I did, the thing that I'm also liking too is that they're open to exploring additional options like that down the road. I talked with them about the AMM. I've talked with them about adding XRP Ledger meme coins. I've talked with them about adding SHX, DEG. He'll explain on the interview that I drop on Thursday morning, he'll explain that it's basically up to having enough liquidity and being able to store it in institutional grade custody at Fireblocks. If they can't do that, then they're not going to list it. So that's what comes down to what gets listed on their platform. Okay, let's get back to super chats. Beer Coin asks, how did Claver get Anchorage to back him? And do you think that his custody yield product is legit? Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly how they were able to get the partnership with Anchorage. I know that Anchorage is one of the leading providers of institutional grade custody, right up there with Fireblocks. And so Anchorage and Fireblocks are both kind of setting the standard, but they're only working with institutions. And so I'm pretty sure that, once Digital Wealth Partners was able to get over, a certain threshold as far as assets under management, Anchorage was probably willing to work with them. And so that's, these platforms will work with, anybody that can bring considerable assets under management and trading, to their platform. So, yeah. Now, as far as their products legit, yeah, they are SEC registered. The only thing that I'll say is that we have to see how they perform, right? When you put your money with them, you're relying on their funds to generate yield. You're relying on their strategies. You're relying on their team behind them to generate those returns. So we have to see how well they can perform. Q2 2025 here, one of the funds lost about 60 basis points and the other fund made about 70 basis points, I believe. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, right? But we'll see how well those funds perform, right? And then, it's going to be pretty interesting to see, because I talked with Jake and they have some plans on some other funds as well too. They're moving very quickly over there. Yeah. Okay. Now let's continue. Cheers, everybody. Thank you. The one thing to note too, and I'm not saying anything bad, just this is the facts. Bernie Madoff was SEC registered, FINRA approved, right? So I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying, even if something is legit, you still need to see the results, right? And that's the thing, is I'm watching some of these providers, they're providing good yields, but times have been good, right? Liquidity's been up, times have been good. I'm interested to see how some of these DeFi providers and yield providers, how well they perform during times of turbulence, liquidity crisis, etc. That's going to be the real question. Because, yeah, you're spitting out returns while the sun is shining and everything's good. Will you be able to spit out returns in the future when things get a little bit bumpy? That's what we're watching for. Okay. Next super chat came in here from Lewis. Zach, have you looked into Epic Chain, partnered with Ripple? Wanted to know your thoughts and opinion on the project. Thanks for all you do. Yeah, I need to dive into them further. I'm very careful. a lot of these projects are saying that they're partnered up or they're backed by Ripple. Ripple's giving out a lot of money. And you guys know Ripple's giving out money to some projects that have failed. So just because something's Ripple backed doesn't mean that it won't fail, right? Just because something's registered with the SEC and FINRA doesn't mean it won't go bust. Just because, you know, Ripple gave them some money doesn't mean that they won't screw things up either. Now, Epic Chain, I haven't taken a look at it. From my initial first look, didn't really didn't make me jump and throw money at it. That's for sure. You know, so I'll follow up on that one. I don't want to speak too soon, but I will follow up and I will be very honest on my thoughts on Epic Chain for you. I will take a look. Thank you. Mark Shepard, hey Zach, thanks for you and your direction. Do you see any reason for delays on the ETFs? No, Mark, I don't. You've had 6 months of ETF trading at the CME. Sorry, not ETF trading, futures trading. You've had 6 months of futures trading at the CME. That went live in May. So I think the official 6-month window is in like November. But I believe that because it's already hit records at the CME, first contract over $1 billion in open interest in about 3 months, I think that you'll see those ETFs go live in October, November timeframe. Yeah. Should be live by October 17th, though. That's when DC FinTech Week is. Paul Atkins, the chair of the SEC, is going to be sharing the same stage as Brad Garlinghouse. I think that a lot's going to be taking place between now and then. Yeah, no reason for delay. Beercoin says gun to head, DAG or flare. To me, I would say DAG. Flare, I set my sell targets on that one too. I still see bigger multiples coming for DAG. And in fact, it's interesting, right? Because DAG is at a few cents and so is Flare. Right? DAG has dropped below 3 cents. Flare is back above 2 cents. But I think that Flare falls short of 10 cents this bull run. And I think that DAG's going to see well above 10 cents. So, yeah, that's an easy one for me. That would be DAG. Yep. Cycle Fanatic, thank you for the 20 spot. I appreciate your support. Let me go back to the rest of the chat. Thank you. I've talked to a realtor about using my crypto to buy a house, and they use it to consider you for a loan. Really cool. Yep. Love it. And that's what I've been waiting for too. I've been waiting for the day where I can go into my bank and say, hey, here's 5,000 XRP. Here's 10,000 XRP. And we use that as the collateral for our down payment. We use that to go buy a property, outright, right? That day's coming very soon. Is Atom or Dot still popular to invest in? I think that they've really lost their motion. I don't see them as being very hot right now, but I will be taking a closer look at them. But right now, I'm not seeing them catching real momentum. Do you think $100 XRP this bull run? No, I don't. I do believe in double-digit XRP in 2026. I do believe in a $7 to $8 XRP this year. But I think it's going to take us some time to get to $100. Okay? XRP back up to 296, moving back up. And that was the thing, is that, yeah, we got that downwards price action after the jobs report came back out. XRP came back down. But if you look, all we did was basically wipe out the gains that we had in the middle of the night, right? When we went back up above $3.03, and then we came back down, but we're basically just right back to where we were at the day before. So we didn't really lose any momentum at all. It's just the market makers pushed us up to 303. It was like the market makers just did that push right before the data got released, and then they knew they were going to get that liquidation pullback to 293. And so that, you know, this is how the market makers make their money. Okay. All right, folks, I appreciate you for stopping by. Tonight's live session has been a fun one. If you guys appreciate what we're doing, make sure you're subscribed here on the channel. Follow us on YouTube and X, along with TikTok too. All of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. We have some quick links in the description down below too if you need access there. Whether it be wallets, exchanges, crypto estate planning, we got you covered. Everything in between. If you want to sign up for our private community, that's through Patreon to get access to Discord. We would love to have you in there as well. All of the XRP family merch is available at my website, and then you just find the shop tab. It's all there. And we now have both of the XRP hats available. These have been flying off the shelf. So if you're looking to get the XRP hat, we got the white logo, we got the black logo. Both are in stock. Take advantage of that. We appreciate you. Zach, are you nervous about your long position? Not at all. My liquidation level is really low. I'm in profit right now. I've held this position in the red for quite some time. Now I'm back in profit. Not worried one bit. It's holding up really well. Beer Coin, thank you for one more super chat. 5 spot. XRP makes moving money fast and easy. Does this make no, I don't see how that would make an issue. I do worry, you know, about our security in the XRP family. It's something that I take very serious. Something that we're going to be setting up with our estate planning too, is helping us kind of keep low key, keep our assets hidden. And we live in a very litigious society. So you need to protect your assets. You need to physically protect your home and your family. So that's something I take very serious. But no, I don't see that XRP makes that any worse. Okay. All right. ZachRector.com for all of the community resources. I appreciate your guys' support. On the way out, if you haven't already, please make sure you like this video. Help us out by sharing it out far and wide. And we will be back tomorrow for more. Okay? God bless you all. Thank you so much.